Hello and welcome to Tools to Create a Better Life with myself, Glenyce Hughes. Thank you so much for being here. I am so incredibly grateful for you and for you choosing greater. And how do I know you're choosing greater? Because you're here. You're here, and I thank you for that. And I wonder what else is possible for all of us, my sweet friends. Yeah. Now, if you happen to be new here, welcome. I'm so grateful you're here. One of the billions of things that I do is I facilitate a class called Foundation, and it is an Access Consciousness core class. I have been facilitating it since 2012, and I am currently facilitating it for the 72nd time. So yeah, I know. Crazy, right? It's so hard for me to believe that, and yet I remember the first time I facilitated it, and I probably remember every other time too if I was really, really thought about it. But I do remember the very first time, and of course, right now I'm facilitating one. And how does it get any better? So the title of this show is my number one tool that I have shared in every foundation I have facilitated. Yes, I know. And I really wanted to do this show about this tool because it is one of the tools that can change your entire life and living. Now, how do I know that? Because it has for me. Utilizing this tool has changed everything for me. Now, if you have taken Foundation, you will not find this tool the way that I'm going to describe it in the manual, because as with every one of us certified facilitators, we receive the tools, we receive the manuals, we receive the information, we apply them in our life and our living, and then we have our ways of sharing them, of inviting people to use them, sharing how we use them that might inspire others to use them. I mean, we have all the things. And of course, this many years playing with these amazing tools and sharing these amazing tools and living and breathing these amazing tools, I have so many ways to share them. And this one is one of those ways. Now, before I share the tool, I know you're on your edge of your seat. You're like, shut up, Glenyce, just give me the tool. I want to invite you to something. I am doing a private podcast about more of the awarenesses that I've had in facilitating 72 foundations and whatever else might pop up. Who knows what I talk about? We never know for sure. But I do know it's all inspired by this week of my 72nd foundation. Gosh, I just love saying that. And so if you would like to join, it's free. You just need to opt in. So you will see a link above or below. And if you don't see one, you are welcome to reach out, and you can email us at info@glenycehughes.com. You can Facebook message or Instagram or smoke signal, may or may not get it, but however, just reach out and I will get you the link to opt in to join me in that 4-part private podcast about more awarenesses with facilitating Foundation. All these amazing times. Now, before the tool, one more time, I will get there, I promise. I do also want to say I am talking about facilitating Foundation 72 times, not from the place of, and now I get it all, and I know it all, and I live it all, and I'm perfect. Because I'm not that good of a liar, my sweet friends. You would not believe that anyway. Even if I said it, you would know it's not true. I actually share that from this place of like, I probably only have 772 billion more times to facilitate it before I really, really get it on every level. And that is the energy behind my choosing to continue every choice to facilitate Foundation, every choice to renew my certified facilitator with Access Consciousness is from that energy of, I would like more. And it's such a gift, you guys. It's such a gift when you're willing to choose more in whatever way yours is. It doesn't have to be my way, but find a way that allows you to choose more and more and more and more magic and more and more and more of you. So to the tool finally, for goodness sake, Glenyce. All right. Now, one of the things that we talk about in Foundation is called the distractor implants. And those are all the different ways that we distract ourselves. So when I initially started studying access consciousness, it was the very first telecall that I took with Gary and Dane. I remember it like yesterday. It was February of 2012, and it was back in a time. Now I know some of you won't even understand this concept, but there was nothing online. It was actually by phone. I know, right? I actually had a phone, like a landline phone that I used to call in to listen to Gary and Dane talk about these distractor implants. And it was, I believe, a 6-part call. Oh, and what I had to do to manage to be present for that call was, one, not sit comfortably. I could not, because I'd fall asleep. That's how much unconsciousness I had on the topic of distractor implants. And I would actually put my phone on speaker and I would lay my head on the desk, and it wasn't comfortable at all. But one, it allowed me not to have to attempt to hold my head up, and two, it allowed me to stay present for the call. And it was tough. It was very, very tough, because probably almost every distractor implant I used in my life and living to limit what was actually possible for me. So once I started facilitating the class, for some people it didn't quite make sense. It wasn't quite the way they required to hear it for it to click. And I started asking the question, and I started using this on myself too. So it wasn't like just in class, it was on me too, because, sometimes it's a little slow to the game here. And the question, and this is the tool that I want to share with you, finally got 6 minutes in, is, am I distracting myself with this? Yeah. So write that down, make it as a screensaver, whatever you need to do, get that into your world. And the way that I actually like to ask it is, truth, am I distracting myself with this? And I still use that tool to this day. Because let's say you had an interaction with a friend yesterday and it's kind of sitting uneasy with you. You're not quite sure, gosh, what was really going on there? And so you're spending some time today in the space of like, wow, were they mad at me? I don't really understand what they meant by that. Like, were they trying to be mean, or did they not mean it? They probably didn't mean it, but what if they did mean it? Or like, oh my gosh. When you ask yourself in that moment, truth, am I distracting myself with this? You would get a big yes. Now, how do I know it's a yes? Because that sort of thinking isn't going to do anything. What that sort of thinking is it's going to put you on the hamster wheel of more of that thinking. Were they mad at me? Did they like me? Are they upset with me? What did I say? What I shouldn't have said that. I should have done this. All that's doing is that hamster wheel, and it's never changing anything, which is what distractor implants are designed to do. You're never ever going to choose something greater. In that, nothing will ever be done. Now, if you did have that same interaction with the friend and the next day you went, that was a little bit weird, I'm going to give them a call and talk to them about it. That's not a distraction. That's actually taking action to have more information and to ask the questions. So this is where we really, really want to be aware, guys, because so much of what we're choosing is actually just distraction. We're distracting ourselves. I would say, for me personally, if I go back to 2012 when I learned about this stuff, if I were to be really honest with myself, I would say I probably distracted myself 98% of the time. Okay, I'm not sure, but probably very close. Business was a huge distraction for me. Another one is jealousy. Oh my gosh, I played with that so much, so much, insane. Relationship, oh boy, that was another huge one for me. Oh, for years and years. And I was married. This is the most bizarre part. When I really look at that, it's like I was married, but it was this constant, should I stay or should I go? He's not, choosing the same thing I'm choosing. I should go. He's not the same vibration as I am. I should go. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So much insanity, sweet friends. And that's only 3 of them, and there's many of them that I don't always remember off the top of my head, but there's so many ways we distract ourselves. And that was the other thing that spurred this question, the tool that I'm sharing of, truth, am I distracting myself with this? Is you don't actually even have to know what the distractor implants are, because that's actually not what's relevant. What's relevant is, are you distracting yourself with them right now? That's what's relevant, and with whatever, because Facebook isn't one of the distractor implants in the manual, and yet how many times possibly do you go to Facebook or some sort of social media where you actually are just doing it from distraction? I know, I don't ever do that, but you might. So that's why when I say I still use that question, I still use this tool, I still ask the question. Every question like that is a tool. Of course, all these years later, I still ask, truth, am I distracting myself with this? If you get a yes, then okay, you can ask then, what can I be or do different to change this? And it might be in the situation of that friend thing and you're spinning in the crazy, it might be to phone them and say, hey, you know what? I felt weird last night. Can we talk about that? Like, imagine a world where we didn't do drama, trauma, story, invention, where we just asked, hey, was something up? Oh my gosh. But you know what? Here's the funny thing. Life would be a little bit more ease. Actually, life would probably be a lot more ease, and we can't have that. No, we must have drama and trauma and problem and intrigue and story and all of the insanity. Yeah. So everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all times a godzillion? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 9, boys, meons. And for anybody not familiar, that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And you can find more about it at theclearingstatement.com. It's brilliant how it works. And there's so many different ways to use it. Also, of course, something we talk about in Foundation and in bars, and in many, many other ways that we share it. Because the more that we will utilize it and the more people that utilize it, the more magic we can be. Yes, yes, yes. So back to the tool. Truth, am I using this to distract me or myself, or however you want to word it? Now, the word truth in front of it, what that does is actually allows you to know whether you're lying to yourself or not. So when you ask truth in front of a question, it gives you the actual what's true. So you might be spinning in the insanity of something, and then you go into, oh, truth, am I distracting myself with this? But you want to keep playing with it. Like you want to entertain yourself with it more. You might go, oh yes, you might say, no, I'm not distracting myself with this. But if you've used truth in front of the question, you'll be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just lied to myself. You'll just start to know, and it's really fun. It's also a really cool tool you can use, if you're doing an interview for hiring somebody and you say, what is your, are you always on time? And you can, before you say it out loud, you can just in your head say truth and then say the question out loud, and then you'll know. They might still lie to you, but you'll actually know if it's a lie. It becomes a really phenomenal tool. Actually, years ago, one of the gals in a Foundation class, she was a lawyer. I'm trying to think of the word. Defense lawyer, I believe. Anyway, she started using that tool in court, and she said she would often leave like in giggles. It was so funny how it worked, because they might still lie, but everybody in the room would know it. Like they might lie and then they might start laughing after or something. Like there was always this, she would always know. And then she became a judge, and she said she had even more fun with it. So how does it get any more magical than that, guys? Like really, that's a whole other tool. So truth, am I distracting myself with this? And then of course, follow it up if you get a yes. What can I be and do different to change this? Whew. Yeah. And that's actually one question that I would say in this specific class, so the 72nd class, that I have been talking about a lot. Now, I do talk about that question a lot in all sorts of ways and shapes and forms because it's brilliant. And in this class, even more than usual, I would say, and it doesn't matter. It's not like, and it's because, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's just, I'm talking about it. But that question, what can I be and do different to change this? It takes you out of the distraction and into action. And what can I be and do different? So not be or do different. I was telling them in the class how years ago I was on a telecall with Gary, and Gary and Dane are the co-founders of Access Consciousness. And so I was on a telecall with Gary, and he's always said that, he's always mentioned that question. That's where I got it from. And this woman said to him, Gary, I've been asking, what can I be or do different? And I'm not getting anything. And he was so funny. He was just like, it's not be and or do different. It's be and do different. So often we think that we won't have to do anything. We're just going to be different. We're just going to sit on the couch and close our eyes and imagine millions of dollars coming our way, and it's going to show up, and probably not. I mean, they still have to know where to deposit it. So you still need a bank account or something. So it's what can I be and do different to change this? Yeah, it also takes you out of your mind. So I know a lot of times we think being out of our mind is what we don't want. Like we want to think about it. We want to be present with it. We want to be logical about it. But that actually is a huge limitation, because your mind can only create what your mind has seen before. So whether you've done it before or somebody else has. Whereas if you go beyond your mind, you let your mind go, there's where the space of infinite possibilities are. So what can I be or do different to change this means you don't have to think about it. You don't have to figure it out. You ask that question and the universe will respond. And spoiler alert, you too are the universe. So I'm often referring to the universe, and I know a lot of people take it to mean that the universe is this big energy outside of them, and they are nothing, and the universe is everything. And that is not it at all, my sweet friends. That is not it at all. You be the universe too. The universe includes everything and everyone, including you. So when you ask a question, the universe delivers. So you want to make sure that you're asking questions that you would like responses to. The other way that I describe the mind to give people kind of an energy around it is this place of your mind is like a 2-year-old with knives. Now, you can't just take something away from a 2-year-old. They're going to freak out. They are going to have a temper tantrum. There's going to be so much drama. So if you're going to take something away from a 2-year-old, replace it. Give it a toy. Take the knife, give it a toy. So when you're taking it away from the 2-year-old, when you're taking the knife away, when you're taking away the distraction, which is that's all mind, right? If you're doing this, you're doing it with your mind. When you're taking that away, you have to replace it with something. So we have a lot of tools in Access that you can replace it with. You could even just run the clearing statement in your mind over and over just to give it a toy to play with. You could use a couple of the questions that you would hear about in bars classes, something like, what else is possible here that I've never even considered? Gosh, I love that question. I have used that probably since the day I heard it back in 2011. Continuously. I love that question. What else is possible here that I've never even considered? You could ask, how does it get any better than this? That's another question you would hear in a bars class. Just something, give your mind something else to do, because that distraction is like a knife with, like a 2-year-old playing with a knife. Take it away and replace it. And the same with the question, what can I be or do different to change this? A lot of times when we ask a question like that, we don't actually get the awareness right away. So you do need something else to give your mind, to give your 2-year-old with knives to play with before you get that awareness. So that's the other thing that can gift you, is something for your mind to do. And one of the things that I've noticed for myself personally, because again, I've been doing this for years, is the more that I do that, the more that I give my 2-year-old something to play with, something that is creating more, the more that's natural for me. The less I go to trauma drama, whereas before it was about 110% of the time. And then over time and over kind of the habit of changing it, I'm more apt to go to a tool before the drama trauma, or maybe never the drama trauma in lots of cases now, because the tool will change it. And so it might feel like you're working really hard to start with if you're new to this stuff. Please just keep at it. Just keep at it. The thing that I'd say to people is, you know what, you're using that time anyway. You know, people say, oh, it's so exhausting. It's so hard to keep getting, taking the knife away from the 2-year-old. But it's like, what's harder, to be present with it and take the knife away every time your 2-year-old is playing with it, or playing with those knives? For me personally, that's what's harder, and that's what's more exhausting, is the constant playing with the knives. I mean, kind of if I think back to what I would choose back in 2011 when I first started using these tools compared to now, I mean, it's hard on my head to even think about that. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. Please don't ever think that I am, because I'm not. I am choosing every day just like everybody else, and I choose more and more than I did ever before, and I'm grateful for it. And there's still times where I choose to play with the drama trauma, or I play with the knives and let my 2-year-old play. And the thing that I say to people too, especially with that, is if you're having fun, like let's say you're just really pissy about somebody and you're just like, then you know what? Have so much fun with it. Like let yourself, set a timer. Go for 5 minutes hard. Be so pissy about that person. I do suggest though, you just do it with you. I wouldn't phone a friend and have this conversation. I mean, do what works for you, but really this is just about kind of getting it out of your system. And if you give yourself permission to do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever, you'll be done. Because often what it is that keeps us going back to it is then we judge ourselves that we shouldn't do that. And so it creates, again, the distraction of, oh, they're so horrible. I'm so horrible. I shouldn't think that way. No, wait, they're so horrible. No, I'm so horrible. I shouldn't. Oh my gosh. And there we are back on that distraction. Get rid of the distraction. What can I be and do different today to change this? So in my number one tool, I believe that I shared lots of tools. How does it get any better than that? Yeah. So again, I invite you guys. I would love for you to come play in my private podcast and receive more of my awarenesses from facilitating all of these foundations. And you know what? I say it like that, but honestly, I will probably do a very similar show in 10 years about the, 1,072 foundations that I've facilitated, because it isn't ever the same. And that's one thing I hear from people. They say, well, why do you get repeat pricing? So with foundation, if you have taken it once, if you repeat it within the next 12 months, you get a repeat pricing. You get to come for half price. Or at least that's the way it is at time of recording. It may change, but it's been that way for the 10 years I've been playing with the tools. And so people will say, well, why would you go again? In fact, there was one guy in a bars class. Oh, he was so funny. And he was like, did you fail? Why are you going again? Like, it was just so funny. He was talking to one of the participants we were in a bars class and we were following up foundation the next day. And he was like, just so confused why she was attending again. Figured she failed. But the reason that it's half price, one, is because once you've attended, in those 12 months after, you attending another one is going to be a huge contribution. That's why the half price. After that, there's probably a lot of new information and such. So then you're kind of like a new person at a class. but in that 12 months, it's a huge contribution. So when I talk about facilitating it 72 times, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, don't you get bored? It's like, no, there's new awarenesses in every class, and every person that shows up, even if it's the same person showing up to foundation, you know, a month later, 6 months later, a year later, 25 years later, they still have new awarenesses in their questions that are going to contribute. In fact, in the class today, day 2 of our foundation, one of the gals asked about vibrational virtual realities, VVRs, as we call them in Access. And that's a topic that in all my years in Access, we haven't, like, it came out beforehand, but we've got these really cool reference materials. So I just said to her, you know what, in order to respond to your question, I require to go and educate myself a little bit more specifically on what VVRs are, so I can have more of a conversation with them about it than just kind of pulling from the bits and pieces of information I have. And I love that. I love, one, that I will do that, because there would have been a time, even when I started facilitating in 2012, it would have been uncomfortable for me to choose that, because you're supposed to know everything as a facilitator. No, you're not. No, you're supposed to be, you've got to be willing to ask a question. That's your only job as a facilitator. And so just being able to go in and research that tonight and get that information for her, and then what that conversation might lead to. Like, how does it get any more magical than that? And so that's really the gift of repeating these classes, is there's always something new. There's always new questions. There's always new energies. Plus, Gary and Dane rewrite the manual once a year. Sorry, Gary, Dane, Simone, and Brendan. Those are all the 4 of the facilitators that do the rewrite together. No, they don't. Sorry. It actually is just Gary and Dane. Gary, Dane, Simone, and Brendan facilitate the Certified Facilitators class together. That's where I'm getting confused. But the rewrite so far has just been Gary and Dane. So we just got the new manual. So this is June of 2021 when this is recording, and we just got the new manual. So for upcoming classes, we will be using that one. And then there's a new one every year, because there's so much new information coming out because of all the people showing up and asking the questions. How does it get any better than that? Yes, and of course, I've got foundations coming up. Depending when you're listening, I've got the Pool Party Foundation, which will also be an online foundation. So you can either come in person if you can get here to Alberta. So far, it looks like it'll go live, so we shall see with all the regulations and stuff. We will just keep aware of that, and we will also have a live component, or a live and an online component. So if you're not able to get here, or you prefer to do it at home, join us online. We have so much fun, and you get to receive so many tools and so much magic, plus the magical manual all of itself too. So there we go. There is your tool. Truth, am I distracting myself with this? If you get a yes, what can I be and do different to change this? And then take the knives away from the 2-year-old, sweet friend. Take the knives away and replace them. Yay. Awesome. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I look forward to chatting again next week.